basic problem with Christians and with the church today is an unworthy concept of God, or could I put it this way? It's that our God is too small. And so here's what I would say, that if your God's job description reads, make my life more comfortable and convenient, then your God is too small. If your God says things to you like, well, don't take a risk, play it safe, then your God is too small. If your God's job is to obey you and do what you want when you want him to do it, if your God is a genie that exists to grant your wishes, then your God is too small. If your God operates on your timetable, if you keep his calendar, then your God is too small. If your God is a white guy with a closet full of suits and ties, if your God loves Americans more than he loves Iranians, if your God is always saying come but never saying go, then your God is too small. If your God never wrecks your schedule or messes up your plans, if your God never asks you to do something that isn't in the budget, if your God needs a certain president to be in office to accomplish what he wants to accomplish in this nation, then your God is too small. If your God has never filled your eyes with tears because of his grace or taken away your breath because of his power, then your God is too small. If your God's dream for you is to retire and spend a couple of decades taking it easy, then your God is too small. If your God always agrees with you and always thinks your opinions and preferences are the most reasonable, if he always likes what you happen to like, if your God is Baptist, if your God is Methodist, if your God is a Lutheran, if your God is a Catholic, if your God is you fill in the blank, then your God is too small. If your God is just fine, it's fine just spending an hour with you a week in church, then your God is too small. If your God says, oh, you've worked hard enough on your marriage, I just want you to be happy now, then your God is too small. If your God looks at your sin of greed, of lust, of gossip, and says, well, it's no big deal, you're doing better than most people, then your God is too small. If your God says your marriage is too messed up and your family is too fractured, if your God says you're too young or you're too old or you're too broken or you're too poor or you're too late or you're too guilty, then your God is too small. If your God fits nicely into a box, then that's not God. You open it up, you find out he's not in there because he doesn't do boxes.